Welcome back to Hardball. Liz Cheney, the daughter of the former vice president, is taking on a higher profile role these days. She's the face of a new group, Keep America Safe, they call themselves, that plans to take on President Obama for reversing Bush-era foreign policy. And the man behind the new group, William Kristol, who relentlessly pushed for the war in Iraq and was wrong in his predictions of the war's outcome. So what's the real goal of Keep America Safe? David Corn is the Washington bureau chief for Mother Jones Magazine, and Michael Isikoff is an MSNBC contributor and Newsweek investigative reporter. Well, I'm a fan of that great book by Ayn Rand, Fountainhead, and there's a guy in there named Ellsworth Tilley. He's an old lefty, and all he does is create these front groups, one after another. Now, the neoconservative crowd, some of them are accused of being just old Trotskyites, but the names are American Enterprise Institute, the Project for the New American Century, Americans for Victory Over Terrorism, Coalition for Democracy in Iran, Committee for the Liberation of Iraq, Committee on the Present Danger, I love that one, and Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Here we got another one. They love creating these groups. Why do they do it? Why don't they just write their op-ed pieces in the newspaper and move on?
Well, it's Keep America Safe. Who's against that, Chris? You know,
who pays for this stuff?
But you nailed it on the head. This is a tactic that comes out of left-wing politics in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
That these guys come from, genetically speaking. Their fathers and grandfathers were all lefties. And so it's one committee after another, and it just, you create a different funding stream. You make it seem like there's more than 20 guys with a phone booth.
I always wonder, is there one per committee? I mean, let me ask you this. Liz Cheney, a very delightful young woman. I don't want to be delightful. I've met her socially. She's great. You can chat with her and talk with her. It's not just anything stranger about her at all. Right. Her father, different story maybe. But why is she out there teaming up with Bill Kristol? Kristol's had an interesting career. He's a brilliant guy. Right. He was he's a columnist for the New York Times. That didn't work out. He was a commentator on ABC for a while. That didn't work out. He runs a magazine, which I do read every week, the Weekly Standard. He what else does he do? He does all kinds of Committee on the Present Danger.
Dan Quayle.
Okay. Dan Quayle's brain.
Yeah.
Look,
and he discovered Sarah Palin up there on that river trip. Those guys were Fred Barnes, and he were on a trip up there, and they found her. She swam out to the boat or something. I don't know what happened.
Liz Cheney is the softer, gentler face of her father. But the views she has
not hard to be.
But she seems like she's inherited
the views
all of
she's
it.
espoused are identical to those of her father. Neither her father or Bill Kristol has ever acknowledged error for anything, any of the misstatements they made about the Iraq War, about the war on terror during the entire Bush administration. They've never acknowledged that they might have gotten some things wrong, that they might have overstated some things, and neither has Liz Cheney.
Okay, just to give an example, here's Kristol's comment in 2002 before the Iraq War. We can remove Saddam Hussein because that could start a chain reaction in the Arab world that would be very healthy. Let me read the next quote from him. Keep going here. In February 2003, Kristol said this of Saddam Hussein: he's got weapons of mass destruction. At some point, he will use them or give them to a terrorist group to use. If we free the people of Iraq, we will be respected in the Arab world. I think we'll be respected around the world for helping the people. We were hated for that war, and nobody called us liberators. It's complete nonsense. Here he is talking about, this is Iran. He wants to go to war in Iran. We might consider countering the act of Iranian aggression with a military strike against Iranian nuclear. 3 years ago he's doing it. And he says, why wait? Does anyone think a nuclear Iran? He's such a hawk. And these guys never served in the military, and they're always pushing for war.
Well, he's gotten everything wrong up to now. And the announcement they put out today of this new group, Liz Cheney said that the problem with Barack Obama is that his policies are too radical. This is a guy who's already put 21,000 more troops into Afghanistan. Yeah. Every day he's sending Predator drones into Pakistan, and they've already picked off in the last couple of months. The Taliban.
How many wars does Cheney and Kristol want us to be fighting at the same time? They want Afghanistan, Iran, just fighting everybody.
Cheney clearly wanted more aggressive action against Iran and lost during the Bush's second term. But that said, look, this is a real political vulnerability for Obama. It's something the Obama White House, are worried about. Not so much this group per se, but the Guantanamo, the whole cluster of issues of national security.
Tell me how it hurts against the middle.
They have already pulled back on Guantanamo. It is very unlikely they're going to meet their deadline of closing it by January. And why? Because of the congressional opposition and their fear of going up against the hard right talking about Obama letting terrorists into the country. That spooked them. That spooked them from the very first weekend that they were going to.
But on that subject, there's two kinds of prisoners. Yeah. There's the kind of prisoner you can make a case against in court, and you don't worry about habeas corpus or anything else. You're going to put this guy away for 20, 30 years for terrorism. Then there are those people who have sworn allegiance to al-Qaeda but haven't done anything wrong yet. Their heart. What do you do with those guys? And that is a legitimate
question. Well, they are wrestling with that, and they haven't figured it out.
Well, the issue also is you can put them in supermax facilities in the United States.
On what grounds? Without suing to get out?
You could transfer them the way you're holding them in Gitmo as you come up with a legal solution to this. I mean, the argument that they can't be brought to our shores because it would endanger us is silly. But
just legally they would have rights once they got ashore.
I think politically putting the Cheney name on any attack on Barack Obama is good for Barack Obama.
I think
Cheney is so discredited. I mean, Bill Kristol probably has a better, approval ratings these days than Dick Cheney or Liz Cheney. So it doesn't really help.
Darth Vader. Even Bill Kristol was calling him Darth Vader in a column the other day. But he is sort of a Dr. Strangelove character. He's a guy that salutes every war effort. He always wants to fight. Always seems to want to torture. I mean, it's hard not to caricaturize
Bill Kristol or Cheney?
Either one. Cheney more as a cartoon.
Look, here's where I think this can make a difference. I talked to one of their strategists today. They are going to be raising money. They've got some seed money from wealthy donors. They do want to run targeted TV ads in congressional districts. If they get some traction, they can be effective. They can be a political force to be reckoned with. So I don't think that the Obama White House is going to so easily write this off.
Do you think that the Obama team still would prefer to fight with the right wing than fight with elected Republicans? They'd rather talk to these guys and fight with Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck of these guys, go after all them. He'd rather go after fight them than fight Boehner, because the Republicans are getting close as competitive forces on these votes coming up. And look at these numbers. That vote as to how you're going to vote for Congress next election is very close.
It's so much easier for them to run against the talk show host and Dick Cheney and anybody connected to the Bush era than it is to go against the generic
let me ask you, Mike. You seem to be challenging this question. Do you think it's smart for the right, center-right, whatever you want to call the coalition, hawkish right, to be identifying with Bush and Cheney going into next year?
No, I don't think that they want to be identified with Bush and Cheney, but I guarantee that if they do get a little traction, if they're raising money, it's not going to be the faces of George Bush and Dick Cheney.
Do we ever get a list of where this money? By the way, do we ever get this? You're an investigative reporter. Do we ever get disclosure on where the money comes from? Not that it would prove anything.
You get it piecemeal. There are a number of wealthy donors that have funded groups like this, very similar to this. Sheldon Adelson in Las Vegas. Mel Sembler in Florida. There are people who put money behind these kind of groups. They're likely the same kind of people who are putting money behind this one.
Now, they try to do it. They did try to do it in 2008, and it completely fizzled. It didn't work. And
he's an amazing guy. I met him one time. I said, how do you get involved in the gambling industry? He said, buy my stock. He's amazing. A very successful businessman and a man of the right, obviously. Thank you, guys, very much. David Korn and Michael Isikoff.